We move on now to the U.S., where stock index futures pointed to a higher open as investors kept an eye on the latest Bitcoin moves. The non-farm payroll data for November revealed on Friday that the U.S. had added 228,000 jobs last month, beating expectations of 200,000. The unemployment rate remained steady at 4.1%, while the wage data was below forecast, with average hourly earnings rising 0.2% for the month. Looking to today's data, the main piece of economic news set to be released as the job openings and labor turnover survey due out at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. While there are no major speeches set to take place by the U.S. Federal Reserve today, investors will be waiting for the upcoming monetary policy meeting by Federal Open Market Committee to see if the central bank raises interest rates for the final time this year. Bitcoin will be front and center again for investors during trade after the cryptocurrencies futures started trading on the Chicago Board Options Exchange on Sunday, 2 hours into the cryptocurrencies launch. The new futures had already climbed 10%, causing a temporary trading halt, and has already surged past $17,000. In Asia, markets edged higher today as investors focused their attention on the launch of Bitcoin futures and an upcoming Federal Reserve meeting that's slated for later in the week. Japan's Nikkei 225 closed up 0.56% as most trading houses and automakers recorded gains. Across the Korean street, the Kospi reversed early losses to end 0.30% higher. The Australian ASX 200 was higher by 0.07%. The Hang Seng Index tacked on 1%, buoyed by strong performances from casinos, energy-related plays and financials. Mainland markets also notched gains. The Shanghai Composite edged up 1% and the Shenzhen Composite rose 1.49%. And back here in Africa, Steinhoff International Holdings, the global retailer that's fighting for survival after its stock lost most of its value on a week-long rout, has hired advisors to help prepare for a crucial meeting with banks as one of its lenders says it's facing credit exposure. The shares rebounded slightly in Johannesburg in early trade today after the owners of chains including Mattress Firm in the U.S. and Conforama in France appointed Amolis & Co. to handle discussions with lenders and Alex Partners LLP to advise on liquidity management and operational measures. The gain in volatile trading follows a crash of more than 80% in the shares last week after Steinhoff says it was unable to publish its results and announced the departure of Chief Executive Officer Marcus Josti. Investec PLC says it has credit and derivative exposure to Steinhoff without specifying the amount. And Sudan has imposed a temporary import ban on selected foods and other items in an effort to protect its currency and narrow its budget deficit after the end of U.S. trade sanctions in October. The Sudanese pound has been weakening against the dollar since Washington lifted 20-year-old economic embargo, paving the way for traders to step up import volumes and putting pressure on already scarce hard currency. The central bank holds the official exchange rate at £6.7 to the dollar, but a low supply in formal channels has meant traders have had to rely on Sudan's black market for dollars. Meat products, fish and fresh produce were among the 19 items included in the temporary ban, according to the Trade Ministry. The ban was effective December 7, the day it was signed. And the head of Libya's UN-backed government held a rare meeting on Saturday with the head of the National Oil Corporation and the governor of Tripoli's central bank to discuss funding to raise oil production. Relations between the three institutions have been fractured over the past 2 years due to standoffs over public spending and funding for NOC. Ties have been tense between Central Bank Governor Sadiq Al-Kabir Sadiq and Government of National Accord head Fayez Serraj over monetary policy and fiscal reform, although the bank said last month An economic and financial plan had been agreed. Libya earns almost all its income from oil production, which has risen about fourfold over the past year and a half to about 1 million barrels per day. Despite the rise in production, Libya is still running a heavy deficit, and the NOC has complained in the past that it has only received a fraction of its budget. The African Development Bank has approved a $100 million loan to develop a bauxite mine in northeast Guinea as the West African country works to treble output by 2020. The money will help construct a new mine operated by Guinea Aluminium Corporation, a subsidiary of Dubai-based Emirates Global Aluminium, by 2020, with annual production capacity of 12 million tons of bauxite. It will also finance a new container terminal in the port city of Kamsa and the refurbishment of a 143-kilometer railway to the port from the mine in the town of Bok. Guinea has about a third of the world's bauxite reserves, which are refined and smelted to make aluminium, but annual production has lingered below 20 million tons for years, largely due to political instability. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll look at what went wrong with Monsanto's genetically modified cotton in Burkina Faso. Do stay with us.